wait for elevation. I'm a soldier, won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping in the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath when they pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Up, 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 up. We're rising up, 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 up. Rising up, 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 up. We're rising up, 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 up. Rising up, 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 up. We're rising up, 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 up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance. You can't resist us. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us.
And welcome everyone to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Vollano. We are getting close. We're only 3.5 weeks away from an election time. And we got a lot going on. A lot of candidates are finally coming out and making some statements. We're going to go over we're going to go over what we talked about last week. We're going to on that extra long episode from Joe Scaramuzzo. I'm not going to screw it up this time. So we'll review that because there's a lot. I think there's some interesting things to take out of that conversation we had. Even though, I thought the first hour of the conversation was actually pretty good. And then I think his liberal side finally came out. But that's okay. We thank him for coming. And listen, at the end of the day, it's going to be you guys that make the final decision on who you guys like. But we'll go through all the races again. Give you a little update. We're going to talk about debate time because we have the debate coming up on Thursday. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I am your host. I am your guiding light through this craziness called election time. And as the headline said, we're going to decipher all the comments and stances that the candidates make. And we're going to read in between the lines because that's what politics is all about. When you want to be an informed voter, you got to know how to decipher the nonsense that they say and try to read between the lines and get the true meaning out. So we will do that tonight. Of course, this show only works best when you guys are involved. So if you want to call in 203-805-2520, or you can email us straighttalkjv@gmail.com. I have that up and running. We're going to go over some of your questions that you guys have put forth over the last couple of weeks that we haven't gotten to. So we'll actually do some questions from you guys. And then, of course, if you're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, you could just join in on the comment page. I see it is off and running. We have both the YouTube and the Facebook going. Alan, hello. How are you? So let's dive right on in well, obviously, let's get through the one thing that I think is on the minds of everybody over the last week, and that is, what's going on over there in the Middle East. And it blows my mind. I don't want to talk too much about it because, we want to get to the merit and stuff, but we have to at least address it. We addressed the whole Ukraine thing months ago, and it's hard not to address what's going on over there and where America stands on it. And really, the craziness within America, when we see all these protests in support of Palestine and Hamas, it absolutely blows my mind that this is going on in America. And on top of it, we're catching people down on the southern border from the Middle East sneaking over the border. But again, these are conversations. Those conversations are for another time, another show. But and we have to at least address it and say what the frig is going on down there and what is going on over there. And I'm still a true believer. If Donald Trump was in office, none of this would be happening. And I don't think anyone could debate that because you just were not going to sit there and cross him and worry about what he was or was not going to do to you. So, but again, those are for conversations later down the road. But, like I said, we have a debate coming up. If you don't know, there's going to be the mayor debate and the city council debate and the city clerk debate this Thursday starting at 6 o'clock over at the library, the one that floods. So, go see what $17.1 million cost you. And hopefully it doesn't rain before then, so we're not all swimming in the swimming pool down there. So, but it's important that everybody shows up because you're going to learn things. And listen, there are some candidates that still will not say a word. Will not say a word. I mean, listen, everyone knows how much I dislike or can't get behind certain candidates. But when the other candidate is just MIA and just not showing up to anything and not putting anything out there other than a blurb in the Record Journal, I don't know how one could support a candidate like that. It absolutely blows my mind. Misner over in Area 4 has said absolutely nothing. I've made several attempts to contact her, and she is just not responding to anything. I have no idea where she is. It's just absolutely mind-boggling, but she wants to represent Area 4. I think that is a shame when you put your name forward, but yet you don't want to talk to the people. Whether my dislike for certain candidates or not, at least they're willing to come and talk. Well, they're not willing to come here and talk. He'd be crazy to do that because, no, he's not going to want to answer for any of his stances that he's taken. But that being said, at least he's on social media and he's trying to connect with some voters. I think it's too late for him, but that's my opinion on the matter. But again, when candidates just decide to just go silent and just hope that their party line is going to get them over the edge, over the hump, I think that's a problem. And if people support things like that, that's really sad because you're basically voting for a party and for a person you know nothing about. And I don't know, I just couldn't sleep at night. So, the people at least who I vote for, I at least know. But like I said, debate time, which is important. Well, let's talk about the we did 2 interviews over the last couple of days, over the last couple of weeks. We did the one with Dan Zabrowski. He was in studio. And then obviously we did Joe Scaramuzzo last week, and he did the marathon show. And again, both of them, I think, are very nice guys. I enjoyed speaking with both of them. I was surprised Joe wanted to stay as long as he did last week. And he, like I said, we stayed over 2 hours. So I thought that was good. I thought it was a great conversation. I thought it was respectful, and I thought we got a lot out of it. And he didn't mind being pushed a little bit. But like I said, at the end of the day, there are certain things that worried me about Joe, and it came out towards the end, especially when it came to girls playing guys sports and girls using or men playing girls sports and men using girls bathrooms. It's just somewhere where I know you have to draw the line somewhere. And again, my concerns with Joe, and I've said it before, and I said it last week, is can you be a minority in the majority and still get things done? Or are you just ostracized, like I said, like a Steve Iovana was with the Democrats? You either get on board, you either vote with your party, or else you're going to be shunned. So I'm still not convinced that a Democrat can be a moderate or center left in this city with the leadership of the Democratic Party of today here. That, i.e., Sonia Jelks, Cortez, Graham. Can he get through that and actually be able to change I just don't see it happening. I think they're so hardcore into their thoughts and into their crazy ideology, because that's all this is. This isn't about policy. This is about making their ideology come to life. And they do it through their social justice. And I'm sure we're going to hear during the debate, we're going to hear all about equality and inclusive and all the equitable, all this kind of stuff. And like I said, I want a Republican to just turn around to them and say, what does that mean? Because no Democrat, in fact, I asked Joe this last week, what does that mean? Because listen, no matter what you do as a government, it's never going to be equal. You're never going to have it. Because listen, everybody is different. Not every white person is the same. Not every African American is the same. Not every Hispanic is the same. They try to put everybody into these boxes. And they try to label everybody. And think that they have to just play to those. That's not how it works. The only thing the government should do is give the equal opportunity to each and every constituent. And that means getting out of the way. And I hope Republicans stick to Republican values during the debate and into the future and say, you want to make things equitable, inclusive, and have equality? Great. Let's get out of the way. Government only is an issue. It is never the solution. Get out of the way, get out of people's pockets, let them have their money, let them have their freedom of choice to do things, and let the individual prosper or sink on their own. So if I'm a Republican, or again, if I'm a Republican on that stage as a Republican, as a conservative, that's my stance. You want to have all these things. The only thing that we are entitled to in this country, as far as equality, is the equality of the opportunity to pursue anything we want to do. And we have safety nets in place. So in case you fail, which again, failing is not a bad thing. And we've said this many times over the years on this show. Failing is not a bad thing. As long as you use it as a learning experience on how to fix things and then try again. That's what America has been built on. It's been built on that opportunity to let you live your dreams and let you sit there, and you're only limited by yourself. So, again, I know it's going to come up. The social justice is going to come up, and I hope Republicans are ready for it. I think they are. Again, these debates really make no sense to me to begin with. Remember, the debates is this Thursday. In fact, let me grab the date. Let me click on my little calendar here. Maybe this calendar. There we go. It's the 19th. So Thursday the 9th, October 19th, 6 o'clock at the library. It's going to be in that new space they got there. And then you can walk to the other side of the library after it's done and see all the other open space we got there. Because it makes absolutely no sense why we built that room when we have literally empty shelves on the other side and just this big void of space that you could have put this extra meeting room. But in good liberal stances here and ideology, they decided to spend more money to build this extra space that floods out. But of course, that's not it's crazy time. So, I hope it's not the drag reading hour space. I don't know what that means. You have to clarify on that one. So Thursday, 6 o'clock over at the library. Make sure you're there and make sure you're listening to what the candidates have to say. Again, the way they have this set up is the mayor's race is going to go. It's going to be Kevin versus Kurt, and it's going to be 45 minutes, which again makes no sense to me. I mean, you could do that because literally neither of them are going to have any power if they get in, other than if there's a veto, other than veto power. But right now, with a supermajority, the mayor means nothing. If I'm everybody else, I want to hear what these council people have to say. The council is who runs this city. The council is who everybody is actually reporting to. But yet, they're an hour long and there's like 6 on each side. So each person is going to have, on average, like 2 to 3 minutes by the time you get through everything. It just makes no sense to me. And why the Record Journal does it this way, knowing that, is beyond me. I want to hear from these council people. I want to hear from Sonia Jelks. And I hope everybody else is listening to what Sonia Jelks has to say. Because she runs this city, basically. Sonia Jelks, let's just kind of rewind in case people don't know who Sonia Jelks is, if that's even believable. It will be live. It should be live on the city's website. I believe it will be. So, but I will double check. And if it is, I'll make sure I put it onto my page and I make sure I forward it off to everybody. But I believe it is live online on the city's, probably on the city's Facebook page. But we'll find out. I'm sure it is. But you must listen. You must listen to what these people have to say. Because I told you, Sonia Jelks, in fact, let me just give my little prediction here. So when it comes to Sonia Jelks, she's going to talk about social justice. When it comes to Area 2, he's going to probably talk about economic development. Area 3, she's going to talk about mental health and kids. And again, you these are what their topics are going to be. Area 4, I had no idea what the hell she's going to talk about other than healthcare because she's in that industry. So I'm thinking that's what she's going to be talking about. And then you're going to have at large, Chad's going to talk about education, obviously, and Rhodey's going to sit there and be the cheerleader for the Democrats on how great they are and look at everything they've done for us. And you should be happy. And if you are not happy, well, then you are part of the problem. And because I love Rhodey when he turned around and said that he could work with both sides, and he has a lot of Republican friends, and that he has no problem working with us. It's like, what are you talking about? Has anyone read anything he's put online? Anytime a Republican says anything, he is all over it, as if you were the devil. Now, things that are legitimate, i.e., flooding, downtown flooding. I bet you won't hear anybody talk about that unless it comes from a Republican side. Because we still have flooding issues downtown. we have flooding issues right next door to the green where we spent millions of dollars to fix that problem. But as Rhodey said, it's only there for a couple hours now. It's not there for days. But they never thought to actually, with all the work done on Pratt Street, thought to, hey, let's fix this problem and make sure it drains into the nice new green we just put there. No, instead, we'll just leave it there to flood out. And like I said, whether it's there an hour, or a day, or a week, once it gets inside, it's there. The damage is already done. Go tell that to the business owners. Go tell that to the homeowners over there. Oh, it was only here a couple hours. Yeah, why don't you go walk into my basement? The water's still sitting there. But they're going to tout it as it's the greatest thing to the next coming of Jesus is their flood control. They did a superb job. They're going to talk about, again, what else are they going to talk about? They're going to talk about the mill rate, which is a fascinating thing. Just on a little side note, I got a call from the Record Journal this week, since I'm on the Board of Assessment Appeals, asking me if I knew anything about the back and forth between the city and the tax assessor and the reval company. Because apparently now, it's come down to, it's a he said, she said. Melinda, who is the tax assessor, oh crap, my thing just fell. I'll have to get that. She's blaming the reval company and the city. And the city and the reval company are blaming her for the out of control revaluations. So I look at it this way. Now, again, while I have no understanding as a member of the Board of Assessment Appeals, we don't get involved in the back and forth between the tax assessor and the reval company. That's not in our jurisdiction to sit there and be involved in that process. Our process, I get involved in the process, and the Board of Assessment Appeals gets put into the process when the citizens go to the assessor's office and they go to the reval company and they say, we don't believe this evaluation is correct. And if you're not satisfied there, then you come to the Board of Assessment Appeals. So that's all fine and dandy. Now, once it gets there and we start hearing it and we start seeing it, yes, there were things that I questioned. And I said to one, like I was telling the Record Journal, was there were no more bungalows. So if your house was considered a bungalow, the tax assessor decided that was no longer going to be valid in the city, and they were changing them all to a colonial. Now, most people go, well, maybe that's just a classification thing. No, it's not. A colonial is worth more in the tax assessment world than a bungalow is. So by getting rid of the bungalows and switching everything to like a colonial, she's already increased your valuation by, I think it's at least 5%. So just by that taking place, and then we had issues with landlocked properties and properties that were not accessible, that were sold years ago, back in the day, and were unusable. And we were also talking about properties like on, if anyone's familiar with Yale Ave and Cobblestone. You have a piece of property there that's a water retention area. So when they built up on top of the hill, the water had somewhere to go. And the tax assessor jacked up that property's value from $5,000 to, I think it was something like 50-something thousand. So these are the issues that individuals and associations were having. Not to mention that commercial properties went up by anywhere from 50 to 300%, but that's a different story altogether. So all these things were happening, and these are things that obviously were concerning to the board that we questioned, and the answers that we were given were we no longer recognize bungalows. We now recognize them as as colonials, which to me is wrong because it's still an option. So why are we changing things just because they're worth more? And that's why I said, you know, when I questioned the tax assessor and I filed my own ethics complaints against the tax assessor, and of course I was denied because our city's ethics board is an absolute freaking joke. They actually told me that I needed 4 other people to write off, to sign my complaint, because that's what it takes. Unless I'm a counselor or a mayor, because they could bring ethics complaints against anybody. But if you're a board member or you're a regular citizen, no, you can't bring an ethics complaint unless there's... So just to let you know, we're worth 1/5. The citizens of Meriden are worth 1/5 the value of a councilman or the mayor. Which also brings me to the question, I brought this stuff to the council, I brought this stuff to the mayor. Why didn't they do anything about it? So when they start sitting there, start pointing blame at Melinda, make sure that you're the first one to turn around and say, but you knew about it and you did nothing about it. They did absolutely nothing to help the citizens of Meriden, which is why I said, if you had a tax assessment that was extremely high, and if we denied you for whatever reason, or you just didn't get happy with what you got, I told them everyone should be suing. We already have record numbers of lawsuits in the city right now for a variety of things going on in this city. But there is no accountability in this city. So as the Tim Kuhn sits there and complains about Melinda, and Melinda complains about Tim Kuhn's in the city, they're all to blame, every single one of them. And don't let any of them off the hook, which is, again, is why I'm very concerned. And listen, I've talked about this to counselors this week. I'm very concerned on why Republicans decided to extend Tim Kuhn's contract. I can't point to a thing that he has done to better the citizens of Meriden. If anything, he's only dragged our city through the mud with this whole DUI. But he was rewarded with an extension of his contract. It is absolutely mind-boggling to me. But again, this city has no accountability anywhere, which is why all these people need to go. They all need to go. I cannot vote for a single incumbent this year. I don't care which party you're on. I am not voting for you. And I strongly urge no one else to. Again, I'm not going to dive into this to everything. We'll get in briefly to the races again and point to where we stand on things. But it's an absolute joke. And that's why I say Area 1 is probably the most crucial race out of all of them. I think I truly believe there are just as many Democrats that are irritated and pissed off at Sonia Jelks. I honestly believe there is just as many Democrats that want Sonia Jelks out than there are Republicans. Because there are a lot of people who are not happy with her whole social justice movement. She's just taking it too far. And she has influenced everybody on that council. Either she's a really good she's really good at convincing people or threatening people, one or the other. Because I've seen people like Bruce Fontanella. I would never imagine in 10 years that Bruce Fontanella would vote the way he is. And he really didn't start acting like this until Sonia Jelks became majority leader. Michael Cardona used to be a normal person who you could have a legitimate conversation with. He's been on the show before. Now you can. Now he's gone so crazy, so left wing. I mean, he had to sit here and finally break down when I questioned him on it, on where he got those stats. When we were talking about racism as a public health crisis. And he said, oh, the University of Michigan gave us, that's where that report came from. That's where this whole thing came from. And if you remember, we went and pulled the University of Michigan polling and where they got all this information. And remember, so when they used that, they said law enforcement is the leading cause of death of black Americans, is a leading cause of the death of black Americans. We went and dived into that and said, no. They took like 6 or 7 different categories, balled them all together, and just threw it in there. They needed 6 categories to try to make that thing work into their narrative. And when they were questioned with it, crickets. Then all of a sudden it became, well, we need it just in case. Even if something did happen in this city, they would still have no jurisdiction and no power to do anything anyways, because it would go to the state's attorney's office and they would actually handle the investigation. At the end of the day, they just wanted the CRB in the most watered down version so they could get it passed, and then they could start adding on to it so that eventually they could micromanage the police department, which is what they really want. That's always been the play, the end game, is to mess around and micromanage the police department. That's their goal. That's their dream. And if Sonia Jelks is left in power this year, she's going to step closer and closer to that dream. Which is why I say Area 1 is the most important race in this entire slate this year. And that's why I think Isabel needs to win this race. She needs to win. So I hope she's doing what she needs to do out there. I invited her onto the show. I'll see if she's going to come on. I know we were going to have someone on tonight, but they're doing debate prep tonight, so I respect that, and we'll catch up with them next week. I have invitations. Invitations I sent to everybody. I sent invitations out to everybody. I know Kurt's going to come on. I know Elaine's going to come on. We already had Dan on. We had Joe on. Anyone could come on. Even Carabetta could come on if he dares. So we look to have everybody on. Again, we'll keep it respectful, as we always do. You just be ready to be answering some tough questions. That's all. But Area 1 is extremely important. Area 2, obviously, it's going to be someone new. That seat is now taken by Tomasetti, who, again, I strongly believe just got elected because of her last name. But she's not running this year, and thank God, because she's been horrible. So, and if I see her bobbing her head one more time at the city council meeting, it literally drives me nuts. She looks like a bobblehead. It just blows my mind. So we're going to have at least someone new. And I tell you what, for what we have now, either one is a better, is an upgrade to Area 2. So, of course, I'm still going with Dan. Like I said, I enjoyed my conversation here with Joe last week. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation we had. I think he made some pretty good points. And I think he has some great ideas as far as, well, I guess we didn't put too many ideas out there, but I like his stances and his overall view and vision of it, I guess. Looking at it from a more of a statistical aspect. But like I said, at the end of the day, Zabrowski is definitely someone who's more qualified just due to the fact that he knows more about what's going on right now. He knows the players. He knows how things operate. And he could hit the ground running. And I think that's important, especially right now, because we got a lot of things going on in the city, and we're at a breaking point on a lot of things. So while I really do like Joe, I think Joe's a great guy. I think he would make a decent city councilor. Maybe next 2 years from now when LaRue Graham, hopefully he doesn't run, maybe Joe will take that spot there and run. But right now, I think Dan Zabrowski is definitely the choice for me to move this city in the right direction. And someone who's going to maybe bring a little logic and reality to our current counselors, because I think all of them, for the most part, are in a friggin' dream world. Because I just don't understand what they're doing. And like I said, that's anywhere from the city manager to the budget and so forth down the road. Even with the rescue funds, the debacle and absolute disaster that has turned into, because the city, and again, I blame the council for this, because the council has allowed this to happen. The city council has allowed, and the committee has allowed the finance department to stick their nose in somewhere where it does not belong. It does not belong. Most people don't realize these rescue funds that were approved almost a year ago, maybe over a year ago, have still not been put out there, have still not been given to these organizations. Whether it's the ballroom, whether it's the American Legion, and now all these projects have now increased in cost that now these organizations can't pay for. Hell, that's why they came to the city to begin with the rescue funds. Because the city has decided to stick their nose into where it doesn't belong. They're saying, no, now you got to get 3 quotes, you got to do this, you got to do that, and you're going to use our preferred. It's like, no, that's not the way this works. They submitted an application, it went to the committee. When the committee approved it, the city needs to write them a check. And now it's up to those people, now it's up to the organization to submit all their receipts to the third-party auditor that the committee hired. We hired a third-party auditor for a reason, to make sure that money is being used the way it's supposed to be used. So why the finance department is sticking their nose in this is beyond me. But as with city government, as with the city of Meriden, anytime they stick their nose into anything, they fuck it up. That's just what they do. They're very good at it. They are very good at screwing things up. It absolutely blows my mind. So that's just, again, and I'm hoping that these candidates on Thursday night bring all these issues up, because they should. Make them answer for it. There is no reason for the city to stick their nose in anything that has to do with any of this. That's what we had the committee for. That's what we had the auditors for. So who's getting their pockets lined here is the only thing I can think of. So whose pockets are getting lined here with holding all this stuff and using city contract, which sometimes there's only one. So now it's a monopoly. And they can sit there and charge whatever they want. So, again, this is just one more thing I would bring up. And I think that's something that Dan Zabrowski will definitely tackle on day one, which again is why I still got to back Dan Zabrowski. Like I said, like I told him, it'd be hard to knock me off the Dan Zabrowski train, because I again, if anyone's earned it in this city and who's shown that he cares more about this city than anybody, it's Dan Zabrowski. So I'm hoping for the best, Dan. And we just need to get everyone in Area 2. That's North Meriden. North Meriden and West Meriden, in the far West Meriden. You need to come out. We need to vote Dan Zabrowski in. Area 3, that's my area. Listen, I've been frustrated. In my area. I know I mentioned it about a month and a half ago that I never met Mike. I met Mike once now. He came to the house for a brief 3 minutes while he was door knocking, and again I haven't heard anything since that time. So I don't know what he's doing. I have his thing here, which I was reading, and because again, and the only thing I like about Crystal Blake is that she's finally starting to wake up and fight back against Sonia Jelks. But again, if you read the newspaper, which again is obviously the only place that anybody wants to talk is on the newspaper, she talked about nothing other than mental health, which is important, education, which again is important, but that's not her job. That's the Department of Education, and nonprofits, which again, almost every city councilor on the Democrat side works for one. They all work for nonprofits, or they work for the Board of Ed. They all have special interests that the city somehow pays for. I mean, you got Mike Rudy, who works for Community Health, which gets money from the city. You have Crystal Blake and LaRue Graham, both work for Boys and Girls Club, both of them an organization that gets money from you, the taxpayer. Sonia Jelks works for a nonprofit. And then you have Cortez, who works for the state. So they're all invested. They're, of course, when they talk about it, when you hear words like investing in anything, it means spending money. We need to invest in this. We need to invest in that. That means they want to spend your money. And they're very good at it if you don't challenge them. They love spending your money. So it's just something to be careful for. And again, I like Mike's public safety. Again, I like the fact he's been in the police department 31 years. I don't like the fact that it was under the cassette regime. Again, I've been very clear on my stance when it comes to Jeff Cassette and where I stand on the police department under his administration. I think it was a disaster. I think it was corrupt. Actually, I don't think, I know it was, because whether we talk about missing guns that have still never been accounted for and no one's ever been held accountable for, whether it was for the attempted cover-up of his son, and in that whole debacle, whether it was his brother who oversaw the department in regards to traffic tickets and summons. Remember, when they found all those checks and those parking tickets and all that cash inside the desk drawer of one of the employees. When she retired, they finally found it. Some of these parking tickets and these checks and everything else were years old that no one has been held accountable for. But yet it was the chief's brother who ran that department. So excuse me if I sit there and I throw my hands up and I say, all right, well, you've been there 31 years, but you've been there under Jeff Cassette's reign. Yeah, I got some questions. I got some questions I need some answers to. And I have invited him to come and join us. Whether or not he does, I invited Crystal Blake to join us. We'll see if she does. But I don't know, if you can't come and talk to the people that are going to vote you in, I don't see how we could vote for any of them. So I need to know more. I like what Mike says. But again, I have some questions for him that I hope he will answer. I hope he will join us and answer. It is pretty funny. You know, if you look at it, where it's come over the years, where even Republicans are a little apprehensive to coming on the show, which I find interesting, because they used to all be like, let's go, just jump on the show. And now it's like, wait a minute, he's going to question us, and we need to have answers. Yeah, because the people deserve to know. People deserve to know. And whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you're going to get treated the same way when you come on here. And I think that's good. Again, I'm not disrespectful to anybody. But you're going to be asked questions, and we want to know what you think. I think it's important for everyone to know what you think. So right now, Area 3 is still, again, to me, up in the air. I can't vote for either one of them right now. Again, this is my district. And in this house we have 3 votes. And again, I like to talk to my neighbors. And I share my opinions. So listen, again, don't think just because you have an R next to your name, you're good with me. I need to know where you stand on things. Because sometimes I just rather vote for nobody. And just skip it. So, but again, we got 3 more weeks. Hopefully they'll come on. We'll reach out again and see what they want to come on. And then we have Area 4. And that's so you have Misner and Carabetta. Again, to me, Carabetta is a non-starter for me. Again, he just too many times, just way too many times for me with his nonsense, his condescending attitude towards not only the people that got him there, but with the voter, with the people in general, and then with the way he votes. The fact that he doesn't have a spine is a real problem for me. If you don't have a spine and you don't have values that you stand on that you'll never come off of, I don't see how anyone will vote for you. And I honestly think that Mike Carabetta will lose this election. So Republicans need to pick up 2 other seats, which I'm hoping Isabel and Zabrowski will take care of that really quick, and then we'll just add some gravy onto it, and hopefully maybe even take a majority. But no, Mike Carabetta is an absolute no for me, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Again, I think the whole racism is a public health crisis is an issue for me. Especially since, he repeatedly told everybody that he was not going to vote for that. And then literally hours after he said that, he went and voted for it because one of the counselors cried. Makes no sense to me. Like I said, I give all the respect in the world to Dan Burnett, who actually came to a meeting and actually explained why he voted the way he did. And I can respect that. Mike Carabetta has never. In fact, he's only turned around and insulted people who got him where he is today. So to me, that's a non-starter, and he needs to go. I'd rather have a liberal on there than have a Republican who has no leadership skills and no values. Because like I said before, that does nothing but hurt our brand. Does nothing but hurt the Republican brand as a whole. And that's just unacceptable to me. So, I kind of feel like we're in the House of Representatives, and you have the certain people in the Republican Party that are like, moderates. They don't want to offend anybody. They just want to play nice. And then you have Republicans with values like myself who are just going to turn around and say, no way. Like I said, and I always say it, why vote for a Republican if they're just going to act like a Democrat? You might as well just go vote for a Democrat. You might as well. Like I said, if they're going to drive the car off the cliff, there is no point in getting in the passenger seat. And why Republicans continuously like to do that is absolutely beyond me, other than the fact that they just want to be liked. They don't want to be shunned. They don't want to be not invited to things. They just want to be part of the in crowd. Maybe they didn't get hugged enough as a child. Maybe they just were picked on in school and they just didn't have any friends, and now they have somewhat of power and they're just so excited about it. They don't want to lose it. Maybe they like just being called Mr. Counselor or whatnot. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely nothing that I'm going to get behind. And I have no problems going against a Republican that's not a Republican. So for Area 4, again, I don't see how Carabetta is even a viable candidate or in the discussion. I would go with Misner, even though she's deciding to play it smart, which is just to shut up. But that's the way it is. Hopefully she'll come on. Who knows? Then you got the at-large. Mike Rohde? Absolutely not. Mike Rohde is the worst thing to ever happen to the city for decades. He is one of the main contributors of the decline of this city. So that's just crazy to me that he's even running in this race. Then we have obviously Elaine Cariotti, which again I already said is I am absolutely great for. I think Elaine will do a tremendous job. And then we have Chad Cardillo and you have Sean McDonald. And again, I've had my disagreements with Sean. In fact, I think we had a 2-hour disagreement a week ago where he called. But listen, at the end of the day, I want someone who has a spine and who's going to do what he says and says what he does. And says what he does and does what he says. That's what I want. And again, I look at Sean, and Sean has a lot of those qualities that Mike Carabetta has. And to me, that is extremely alarming. So when you have those kind of qualities, it just makes me step back. But then I look at Chad, and Chad is a hardcore liberal. And that Chad, no matter which way you want to put it, Chad is a hardcore liberal. But you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting. So the question for me is, do you take what you know you're going to get with the Chad Cardillo, knowing that he wants to spend some more money? Or do you bite the bullet and vote for Sean McDonald, not knowing what you're going to get, but knowing that you're going to get maybe something out of it? It is really a hard decision on which way you want to go. Right now, I'm leaning more towards Sean, just due to the fact that if anything else, it breaks the supermajority that the Democrats have. That is really the only thing that persuades me to go more towards Sean than Chad. Now, I've invited both of them onto the show. Whether or not they show up is up to them. If they want to come on and make their case, I'm all ears. Of course, like I said, it'd be respectful, but the hard questions will come. So, again, both are invited onto the show. We'll see if either of them take the opportunity to come on. But to me, that's the hardest decision because I don't mind Chad. Chad as a person, I like Chad. I think his family's nice. We've had conversations during other elections, and then we've had a little bat him with his partner because when he was saying things that weren't true, and then when I questioned him on it, he had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. But the next election, we actually got along, and it was actually pretty good. So no, I have no issues with Chad. And I know my son vouches for him. I know Joseph likes him. So, I mean, it might be a split in this household this year. I wouldn't be surprised if Junior decides to vote for Chad this year. So, this would be the first year Joseph Jr. has the opportunity to vote. And he's going to take full advantage of it. And he's excited about it. So, and he's, again, and I love it that he's taken time to research what people are for and against, and he's going to make an informed decision, which is the greatest thing for me. I absolutely love that. So, again, that one's still a toss-up for me. I can't change my mind either way. We'll hear what they have to say. Again, we'll hear what they have to say on Thursday. But, again, they're going to get 3 minutes, if that, during this debate on Thursday, which is ridiculous. With all the power that they have in this city, there should be much more time invested into the council candidates. But I think the Record Journal does that on purpose because you don't want these candidates sitting up there for a half hour, 45 minutes, having to defend all the nonsense they've been doing and have to defend all the progress that's not being made, or as the mayor likes to say, all their momentum. All their momentum. So, again, I look forward to hearing from both Chad and from Sean and seeing where they stand on things. But again, I want someone with a steel spine that's not gonna falter when other counselors cry or when other counselors sit there and start going after them. I don't want you falling over. I want someone who has some strong values, going to sit there and stick to them and say, absolutely not. Even when some in the party turn around and say, you should really vote this way. Say no. I miss the years of Walt Shamek and Lenny Rich. That's what I want. That is the type of person I want. I want a Lenny Rich and a Walt Shamek back. Because they were golden in my book. But we'll see what happens. And then, of course, you have the city clerk, this is just an absolute joke to me. This is a desperate attempt by Democrats. That's all this is. Having Mike Cardona run for city clerk is a friggin' insult to every voter in this city. They're trying to use someone's last name to get someone who has been in this department for almost 25 years, who is highly qualified. And you want to throw someone who has absolutely no idea what city clerk does, who has no certifications to be a city clerk. But Democrats are just doing anything possible to get Denise out. It makes no sense to me. It's insulting. And I gotta tell you, if I was the Secretary of Education, if I was Miguel Cardona's, I'd be embarrassed, and I'd be pissed. Don't try to friggin' coattail off of my last name. Don't you dare try to coattail off of my last name, because that's all they were trying to do. And it's not going to work. It's not going to work. I think the citizens of Meriden are much smarter than that. I hope so. And like I said, I hope Denise gets so technical in that debate that he looks like a complete friggin' idiot that he is. It's just absolutely crazy. And I tell you, that's one person I would not have on the show. I would not have Mike Cardona on here to sit there and try to justify why he's running for city clerk. I wouldn't even entertain it because it makes no sense. Stick to the board of education, where you got a nice little cushiony job, because you're a counselor. So of course, you gotta have a job in the city. It's just ridiculous. The whole thing is just nonsense. And then of course you got mayor. And again, I think it's time for change. And again, if nothing else, getting Kevin out and putting Kurt in gives us a check and balance to the council. It's a check and balance because Kurt has veto power, and he can veto anything that is passed by the city council. And again, if we get 2 seats, we just need two Republicans to win. And they don't have a supermajority anymore, and those vetoes will stand, barring we don't have a weak Republican go against them. So, again, I think their mayor's race is extremely important. We already know that Kevin is in the pocket of the Democrats. I don't care what he says. He can sit there and say he's an independent all he wants. And he says he works with both. No, listen. When was the last time Kevin Scarpati voted or endorsed a Republican? When was the last time he came to a Republican meeting? Came to a Republican function? It's been years. Well before he got elected. But he's at every Democrat. I mean, when you go to the inauguration of the governor, you go to the inauguration of Blumenthal down in Washington, when you're cozying up with Susan Bisowitz and Chris Murphy, you can't tell me that, oh, that's the mayor, that's what the mayor got. No, it's not. That's not what your mayor's job is. Your job is to represent Meriden. That's not representing Meriden. That's you cozying up to people that you think will benefit you in the future for another job. That's what that is. So again, Kurt Horgan needs to win as mayor. And we'll get some things done. But that's a wrap up of all those. So again, those things, some of the things are a little fluid. A couple of little things may change during the next 3 weeks. And again, as candidates start coming on or start putting more information out there, I think Facebook has been great. I think, again, I like the people are trying to force these candidates to make a stance. Put the stance on there. You should be talking to the people. And I hope Republicans do a town hall. I hope the Democrats do a town hall. Get all the candidates together, go do a town hall and get people to come and ask questions. Do it like we used to back in the old days. But we'll see what happens. So remember, this Thursday, 6 o'clock, at the library is debate time. So if you can make it, please be there. If not, we'll try to stream it on my page. And we'll share the link. Because I'm sure it's going to be done live. I mean, hell, they paid enough money for all the technology in that room. It better be live. So we'll let you know, and just keep an eye out on my page, and I'll share it along. But until then, we'll have a total recap of the debates next Sunday, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see what these guys have to say. These guys and ladies have to say, and we'll go from there. So we'll, like I said, we'll have a lot to talk about next week on the debate alone. But until then, guys, as always, I enjoy you guys all being here. I thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions, always feel free to throw it up on our email, straighttalkjv@gmail.com. I was going to get to some questions tonight, but it's already past 8 o'clock. So we'll catch up on that again next week. But until then, guys, I love you, as always. I love each and every one of you, no matter what your party affiliation is. But until next time, we meet again next Sunday. Hopefully I see you guys there on Thursday. Obviously, God bless you guys, and obviously God bless this amazing country. And pray for those in Israel right now who, again, were subject to a horrific surprise attack last Saturday. And I'm hoping that Israel kicks the shit out of them. Yeah, you know, they're restraining now, getting everybody out of the sea as much as they can, and I hope they level the Gaza Strip. And if Hezbollah up north wants to get involved, I hope America throws a couple of F-18s, F-35s up that way and takes care of that problem for them. But we'll talk about more about that in the weeks to come. Until then, guys, God bless you. God bless America. And I will see you all next week.
And my million faces formed together, made for elevation. And my soldier won't surrender faith. It's like a fire that never bursts to embers. The voice